We all hate red tape, and it seems to be everywhere. In the midst of a Canadian election campaign, a leader of one of the two main parties promised to reduce red tape by 25%. But how can you even determine what a 25% reduction in red tape would look like? As an accountant, I have to deal with the Canada Revenue Agency on a regular basis, and the tax department is what most of us associate with red tape. A little more than a week ago, I was called by a collections officer about one of my clients. The company's head office is ostensibly in Vancouver, since the Ontario-based law firm that set up the company used its Vancouver branch as the head office address when it was incorporated in about 2018. I suspect that they used Vancouver since at the time, BC's securities laws were among the most opaque in Canada. Not that there was any real need to be opaque in their case. It was simply a nice-to-have that didn't cost much from the law firm's perspective. According to Microsoft's CoPilot AI service, in 2019 the BC government amended the British Columbia Business Corporations Act so that private companies are required to create and regularly update a transparency register. These changes, which are designed to improve the disclosure of beneficial ownership, thereby helping to unmask hidden or opaque company structures, took effect on October 1, 2020. The amendments were introduced in 2019 as part of a broader effort to combat money laundering, tax evasion, and other financial crimes, by ensuring that the individuals who effectively control companies can be readily identified by interested parties. Anyway, getting back to the collections officer from the tax department, he called me late on a Friday afternoon in the middle of tax season about my client's $1,000 tax debt, which is pretty trivial for a company with a $2 million payroll. Just to be clear, this Vancouver-based company is managed by a US parent company. Their Canadian employees are basically just outsourced sales agents. In recent years, the CRA has developed an increasingly useful online self-serve system for taxpayers, which is pretty helpful. I've been trying to get online access for this client, like I have for all my other clients. On 3 separate occasions, I have spoken to senior agents at the CRA to understand the process for getting online access in support of my client's foreign-controlled Canadian corporation. Each outlined a complex and slightly different process to obtain authorization and access their account information online. In each case, their instructions were unfortunately wrong. As a result, many hours of wasted effort I still don't have online access. At least now, I am authorized for telephone access, which is why collections called me. So, the following Monday morning, I looked online to find an installment form to send to my client so they could pay their trivial tax debt. For some unknown reason, taxpayers, and their accountants, can't simply download a blank form. Instead, they need to call the CRA helpline to ask an agent to mail them a form. Have you ever tried to connect to CRA's helpline in the middle of tax season? Not a good idea. You must endure a complex message outlining which number to push on your touch-tone phone. After about 5 minutes of this boilerplate, you'll most likely be told that all our agents are busy. Please call again later. I only have the patience for about 3 attempts at this before taking the bull by the horn and calling collections directly. I reasoned that since they want the money, they should be able to provide an installment form. So I called the collections department in Surrey, BC. However, the agent I spoke to didn't have access to forms, so I asked to speak to her supervisor and got the same answer. After about 6 attempts, I connected with an agent at the CRA helpline who explained that there is no online form. She then agreed to mail a copy of the form to me within 7 to 10 business days. 2 days later, another collections officer calls me from the Surrey office, since I am authorized to speak on the phone regarding my client, and I inform her that I have requested an installment form and will send it to my client as soon as I get it. She goes to great lengths to ensure that I am the appropriate person to speak to by going online to the taxpayer's profile, and is concerned that my information from the most recent tax return does not quite align with their online records, which I still don't have access to. She then read a prepared set of notes regarding my client's account and their trivial tax debt. At this point, I tell her that I don't have time for the lecture. I become heated, and she disconnects the call to protect herself from my aggressive behavior. Realizing that I lost it and wanting to protect my client, I then call collections and am soon connected to an agent in Quebec. When I explained the problems I've been having, he offered to send me a second instalment form as a backup. How come he could send me a form when my local agent and her supervisor couldn't? This kind of bureaucratic inconsistency and nonsense is what most of us think of as red tape. Both taxpayers and the tax department are part of a system that provides the money to administer necessary social programs and infrastructure required by society as a whole. Nobody likes paying taxes, but we hope that tax administration and compliance can be as frictionless as possible. When that happens, everyone benefits. Governments typically get blamed for all of society's red tape, but that's just not true. For example, have you ever tried to get a refund from a Canadian airline for delayed flights in Canada? These days, many of our largest businesses outsource customer service in an alleged attempt to improve customer service. In our view, these attempts are really meant to reduce the company's service costs. While reducing unnecessary paperwork is an admirable goal, at the Small Business Analyst Society of Canada we believe that independent professional bodies, and too many in the university industry, protect their monopolies with excessive and unnecessary requirements. The rationalization is inevitably the need to protect the public interest. The reality is that they clearly protect their own self-interest. Adam Smith, credited as the founder of modern economics, once said,
"People of the same trade seldom meet together, even for merriment and diversion, but the conversation ends in a conspiracy against the public, or in some contrivance to raise prices.